Hey, what's up guys, I'm Sami, and in this video we're taking a look at the OnePlus 3T and Samsung Galaxy S8. These are two of the most powerful smartphones so far, with the 3T running on only slightly outdated hardware compared to the S8, but it's also much less expensive, making it a bit of a flagship killer. We're gonna see if that holds up now to actually see if it's worth buying the OnePlus 3T as a flagship killer even in 2017. It was definitely a huge flagship killer back in 2016, but with the new things we're seeing in 2017, it is a little bit more interesting. Now guys, the OnePlus 5, that's with a 5 not a 4, is due to release later this year, and it's probably gonna fill in the spot of the 3T pretty well. I've made a full video on that smartphone and what we can expect, so watch that by clicking the I in the top right now. So the big thing with smartphones this year is the displays, and the S8 is absolutely awesome when that's concerned, because not only does it run at Quad HD rather than the 3T's 1080p, but it's also got a beautiful curved edge display and very minimalistic bezels, giving you a lot of extra real estate. That's unfortunately not something we see on the 3T, because while it does have relatively small bezels on the side, the top and bottom are still huge compared to the S8, so that's an experience we're very much missing out on with the 3T. It depends on how much that matters to you, but it is the next step which you would be missing out on. Some people might be thinking that this is only going to be a bit of a phase, or maybe these small bezels aren't too important, but if you think about how all phones have progressed, the bezels have gotten smaller and smaller, and it just makes sense to fit in that pattern with the S8, so it is something that's new and it is something that's going to stay. In terms of overall design, that comes down to what you as a person prefer, and for me it's honestly gonna be the 3T just because of that metal build quality which I love compared to the all glass build design on the S8. It also makes the 3T more durable, and while the S8 does come with Gorilla Glass 5, it's still glass, so it's probably going to crack relatively easily. As for performance, the 3T was literally the fastest smartphone in most areas in 2016, even beating out the Pixel, the S7 Edge, all of those smartphones, and that even holds up for a big chunk of this year. While the S8 does run on the newest Snapdragon 835, the 3T is still on the 821, which is a very powerful chip, and the jump isn't that huge. Considering it runs on almost stock Android, what it lacks in processing power it makes up for in software, which means it is still going to be very fast compared to the S8. The S8 will be faster than this phone, granted, but not by a huge amount, and you probably won't be missing out on much performance overall. Gaming, multitasking, everything is going to be just as good on this smartphone, but on the note of multitasking, the S8 also comes with that huge screen which allows you to multitask a lot better. Multitasking on the 3T can be quite cramped and a little bit uncomfortable to do, and while that still is the case with the S8, you also get two almost perfect squares to use, which is going to be really handy when you're multitasking. As for cameras, the 3T actually surprised us because it came with a pretty good camera for a budget smartphone, and that obviously still holds up today, but the Samsung Galaxy S8 just leads the industry in this. It is just the truth about it, so it is going to be a lot better than the 3T, but if you're not a huge camera guy, I don't think that should concern you too much. If camera does matter to you though, the front-facing and the rear-facing cameras are much better on the S8, and I think it's a surefire choice for you if that's the case. In terms of speed and convenience of usage, this is actually quite interesting. The OnePlus 3T was obviously the fastest smartphone in 2016 with the fastest fingerprint scanner, fastest use of Android, things like that. The S8 obviously does catch up with that, but the 3T fingerprint scanner is still very fast compared to the S8, and considering its position where it is in an awkward place, it is going to be faster for you to unlock your smartphone with the 3T, considering how fast that fingerprint scanner actually is. Now on the other side of things, the S8 does make up for it because it also comes with an iris scanner and face detection systems, so that way you get two extra advanced ways to unlock your phone, which are both secure and very fast to use. Now when it comes to water and dust resistance, the S8 gets a huge lead over the 3T because the 3T hasn't even got an IP rating, whereas the S8 is IP68 rated, which is pretty much the best a smartphone can be, and that is absolutely great to see. You'll have no concerns using it no matter where you are, but with the 3T you are going to have to be careful when you come into contact with water. It doesn't do well in it, but there have actually been water tests on the 3T, but the thing being that it's not officially rated, so it could just be one of those products that were working well, but yours might not. Both come with USB-C charging with quick charge on the S8 and dash charging on the 3T. They're both going to be really quick. The 3T will probably still beat the S8 out in charging, but in terms of battery life, this is pretty much going to be neck and neck. Samsung is known for having a battery life that degrades as you go on, but that happens with all smartphones, and it's just because Samsung is the most popular, so they get the most flack for it, but it really isn't a huge issue. You're going to see it with both of these smartphones, and you can't really get away from it. Both phones here do come with a headphone jack, and they also have Android Nougat 7.0, which is absolutely great to see they're up to date. Obviously, it would be great if we got 7.1 on both of these smartphones, but that will be coming soon with the 3T. It would take a little bit longer with the S8 just because they've got more software overlaid on Android, but it will come eventually. To make up for that though, Samsung is also including their own software, which you get a lot of. You get S-Health, you get Bixby, all of that good stuff, which works relatively well. Obviously, I think the Android alternatives will be much better, but they do still come with it, and if you've already used them, you know that they work well. Now, one last thing on that screen, since we are in 2017, VR is a thing, and the S8's larger resolution is going to be really good for VR. The OnePlus 3T just can't do it. It's on 1080p, which really just isn't good enough, but the S8 will be able to handle it a little bit better. Granted, that resolution even isn't enough. Even 4K resolutions aren't great for VR. They could be a lot better than that, but my point is, if you want to do VR, you just don't even look at the 3T. It's not going to be good for you, but the S8 is a little bit better. Overall though, these are two very solid smartphones, but it does come down to the pricing. Considering how much cheaper the 3T is than the S8, it really depends on whether or not you want that 2017 bezel-less experience. If you don't think that's a big deal, you really should get the 3T, because that's the only real thing that the S8 offers over the 3T this year. However, if you do think that is a big deal, like I kind of do, I think that you should probably take a look at the S8. I've actually made a full video on if the S8 is worth buying, and I've also compared it to the LG G6, which you can find on my channel, so definitely check that out. It's going to help you make your purchase decision. But guys, that is going to be my full comparison of the OnePlus 3T and Galaxy S8. I really hope you've enjoyed it, you found it useful. I am going to be putting out my full review on the Galaxy S8 very soon, so definitely subscribe if you haven't already to make sure you don't miss that. But with that, as I said, I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you like the video if you have, subscribe if you're new around here, maybe join the notification squad. But with that, I'm out. Peace.